Here we go, another edition of DC Sports Huddle. Rob Woodfork, George Wallace, Dave Preston, yours truly, Dave Johnson. We get going this week with the Washington football team, and really no surprise. I think what happened on Sunday, we were hoping the defense would be better. I didn't feel, though, it would be against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. So where do we stand right now, Rob Woodfork? Because you're grinning in dental pain right now. We'll let you have the first crack at it because I predicted a 35-24 scoreline because I thought Josh Allen and the Bills would do what they did basically.
I mean, so did I, but I think we to a man said that they weren't going to get blown out, and lo and behold, they got blown out. So I think that's what is disturbing about the whole thing is that if you can't hang with the Chargers and you can't hang with the Bills, and you barely, I'm not going to even call the Giants game a win. That was a not loss. This team is showing that they can't really compete with good teams. So they have a really difficult schedule. I know it's really premature to call a week 4 game a must win, but if you don't beat the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday, a team that ranks toward the bottom in the league in every offensive category, I mean, this needs to be a get right game for the Washington defense. If they can't get right, and this is not a diss against Matt Ryan, this just speaks to how difficult their schedule is coming up. So if you can't stop Matt Ryan, and if he carves you up, then what's Patrick Mahomes going to do? He might set some records. So let's this is a must win, and I hate to say that so early in the season, but if this team has any designs on doing anything relevant, they need to win this game.
It is a must win, and the defense has to be some kind of shadow of last season if there is to be a season for this Washington football team, because from my mind, we're seeing with the Washington offense, whether it's Taylor Heinicke or Ryan Fitzpatrick, this is a 20 to 24 point offense. We knew going in, you're going to have to win with defense. So that's not happening. And yeah, they're an offside call away from being 0-3. So I think a not loss is a good way to turn that Giants game. George?
Yeah, I agree. You don't want to say must win in week 4, but come on, let's be honest. I mean, this defense hasn't shown anything. I mean, it's you hate to say that there's too much to fix to save this season, but I mean, we're looking that way as we're heading in that direction, especially as Rob mentioned the schedule, which gets after that. And you got Saints, Packers coming up. You got the Chiefs, Bucks. I mean, where do I keep going? Seahawks, it's just going to be brutal from here on out. So, and for me, it's like, you hear the defense before the season talking about how last year meant absolutely nothing if you don't continue to build on this year. Well, they're not even playing close to last year. I mean, and Ron has said it a couple of times, you have 11 guys doing 11 different things, and that just should not happen. You can't have guys freelancing like they're doing right now. They're not good enough to do that. I mean, and they shouldn't be, watching film and thinking they should be able to do that. So that's kind of concerning. And, if I'm Jack Del Rio, I'm not even close to happy. Ron Rivera's not happy either. I mean, and it's telling the way Rivera mentioned a couple of times that he's worried about looking at the tape and seeing that guys not learning from the mistakes from a week ago. And that's rookie stuff right there. I mean, this defense should be way further along than that. And yeah, okay, Josh Allen's good, fine. He's thrown 358 yards, 4 touchdowns, but another 9 of 15 on third down, 480 yards of offense. At some point, you gotta stop thinking about the fact that the quarterback's really good. And how about thinking of yourself as an elite defense and having some pride trying to get off the field. So for me, not the offense at this point. Antonio Gibson broke out a little bit last week. Taylor Heinicke is what he is. You know what he's going to be. McLaurin is the same thing. For me, it's all about the defense right now, especially as Rob mentioned, the unit that was supposed to carry you at least early in the season while the offense gets its feet under him and maybe win ball games 20-17, things like that. But you're giving up 30 points a game and almost 500 yards a game. We don't like that around here.
No. Well, and again, I think Taylor Heinicke is going to learn from his look. The 2 interceptions, it happens to whatever. I'll say it again.
That's the thing. It's so bad that the quarterback is the least of their concerns right now. The offense is not about what we expected it to be, and the defense is woefully underachieving to the point where they're not even competitive in games. That is the crux of their issues. And they can't they can't get right if the defense isn't a part of that.
No, but the talent that's there, that's the thing. And
Yeah, right, exactly.
Is it the undisciplined? Is it the line? We go back to the first week. 11 guys trying to, or one guy trying to do 11 things versus 11 guys trying to do one thing. As George mentioned, the freelancer. I mean, that's the Rubik's Cube we're dealing with right now, as I use the David reference.
And you know what reminds me, whenever I hear the word freelancing, the first person I think of is LeVar Arrington, because that was what we heard, because he was ridiculously talented, fast, and all the things that you love in a linebacker, but he freelanced. And so that was the reason why, his career in Washington kind of went sideways. And so, you can't just have talent. It's about, especially in football, you can skate on talent in basketball in some ways, you can skate on talent in other sports. Football is not it. It's about being in the right place at the right time. And if you get to the wrong place faster than everybody, that's still not good. So,
and if you end up freelancing like LeVar Arrington, you end up hosting a radio show. So it doesn't end well.
Yeah.
Dave Preston, sort this out.
Well, I mean, two things that were really disturbing to me, and I wrote it in the Burgundy and Gold grab bag that was on WTOP.com this week for Washington, was one, too many defensive backs are making too many tackles. 3 of the top 4 tacklers this past Sunday were DBs. So when that happens, it usually means one of two things. One, your first 2 levels aren't getting the job done against the run game, or 2, you're allowing too many completions in your secondary, whether it's passes in front of you or you're getting beaten. And that was the case this past Sunday. It wasn't just the 480 yards that George pointed out, but the 312 that they allowed in the first half. And that wasn't even the worst thing of the whole thing for me. The 17 play, 93 yard, 8 minutes, 17 seconds, soul sucking possession in that third quarter that just made you want to cry in your beer. Even if you didn't have a beer, made you want to go out and buy a 6-pack so you could cry into each one.
Soul sucking.
It was just that, and that was bad. We talked a little bit about third down. They're the second to worst team in the league at getting off the field on third down. And they'd be even worse if they didn't count those 2 kneel downs where the Chargers didn't convert a third down. Same case with the Bills this past Sunday, because the game was over. They're just trying to get out of there healthy. So they'd be even worse if they didn't do that. This past Sunday, the Bills were 3 for 3 on 3rd and long. That's 3rd and 7 plus. That first possession, Washington's doing things right. There's a penalty. They got a 3rd and 15 from the Bills 20, and lo and behold, a 23-yard completion. The seeds of victory were sown on that first possession, that first drive. And it's disturbing because you look at the talent that is allegedly on this roster, and the whole defensively is less than the sum of its parts. And I don't know if it's a byproduct of a big case has been made about how young this roster is defensively. So maybe there are more guys on this roster who aren't as talented, or who might be more talented than older guys, but they're less disciplined. And so maybe there's a little more freelancing. Maybe they needed that one more veteran on that roster in the back 7 to kind of keep the other guys honest, maybe be a bit more of a cop in practice that then translate towards Sunday. But again, the problem is defensively, guys. And even though the offense is not going to win you games, they can't lose games. I think that the question with Taylor Heineke moving forward is his troubles this past Sunday against the Bills. Is that part of the growth of a young quarterback still finding his feet, because he still hasn't started a ton of games for this team? Or is it the byproduct of defenses finally having tape on this guy, and now they're not fooled, whereas the first couple of games they maybe were?
All right, they can get right against the Falcons, though, defensively, in theory. Right?
I think so. The Falcons are near the bottom of the league in just about every offensive category. They're offensive, but not in the way you'd like for a team to be. Can they get to Matt Ryan? The Falcons, I guess, have allowed 7 sacks so far this season. That's middle of the pack. Burgundy and Gold pass rush, only 6 sacks. One of them, I think, has come from one of their defensive backs, which, that's cute, but you can't guarantee on 17% of your sacks
coming from the back line of your defense. They've got to do something this week to get to the quarterback, cause some disruption, and get off the field on third down, because not only are they not good at getting off the field on third down, they're the worst team in the league at moving the chains when they have third down. So a lot on their plate. The way that the NFL is this year, though, the way it is every year, it's a week-to-week snapshot league. I think they actually win this week. I think they go down to Atlanta and they provide, Washington football team nation a little more hope.
Yeah, and they need to, because it's if you want to be any sort of semblance of what this defense is supposed to be, or what you think this is supposed to be this year, you got to have some pride and you got to go down and beat Atlanta. There's no questions about it. Forget the last 3 weeks, as Dave just mentioned. It's a week-to-week thing. New quarterback, new offense. Just play a game and get a win. Doesn't matter how you do it, but you have to step up as a defense as a whole. No more talking. No more as Chase Young talking about the BS and Jonathan Allen, this and that. We got to play back. You got to do it. Just do it. No more talking. Just 4 weeks in now. There's no excuse.
And
somebody has to emerge
need
as a leader
win comfortably. I mean, the defense needs to be the reason why they win on
Correct.
Sunday. Like
Correct.
they can't, like if they go out there and they give up 30 points and Matt Ryan has a big day and they eke out a win 33-30, that's still worrisome for me.
And again, I think Dave made a good point. Dave Preston made a good point about somebody needs to emerge as a leader. I understand it's a, you're talking bigger rosters, but it reminds me in basketball where, a Paul Pierce comes to a team and it makes a difference. It's the same thing, I think, right now with this Washington football team. You're seeing a leadership void. And I'm not talking about the rah-rah things. It's the little nuances that can help you through a game that it seems to be missing for this team, or they can not correct during the game.
And I think it bears pointing out who their team captains are. I mean, Terry McLaurin's been here, 3 years now? Chase Young was a team captain as a rookie. I'm not saying they're not deserving of that honor. I'm saying that half of their team captains are guys with 3 or fewer years of experience. So that's, and I think it speaks to, and we don't have to delve into this topic today in particular, but I think it speaks to the way that this roster was built. They really emphasize getting younger. And to me, there needs to be more of a balance there. You can't just get young guys just to have young guys. They got rid of some really good, productive veterans. I mean, they still needed Adrian Peterson, but they let him go. And, there's a couple of other guys. There were some available free agents out there. KJ
Don't say it. Don't.
No, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to say it. I was thinking of KJ Wright, actually, because, I mean, you need some help at linebacker. KJ Wright was out there, and that's a guy with Super Bowl experience, a veteran guy. He could have really helped that linebacking core, I believe. And they didn't even bring him in for a workout. So that's the kind of thing is they've been avoiding it seems like they've been avoiding veterans just to avoid veterans and have a young team. But the problem with that is then you're going to have games like we've seen where they're a little less disciplined and and out of place and freelancing and so forth. So
real quick, the only roster that's really worked as far as going younger in DC is this Huddle roster. We've got
right. Well, and when I say about a leadership void, it's not an indictment on any of the players that are in leadership positions. It's just, as you said, a young team. And for new viewers and listeners of the Huddle, the player that Rob is not supposed to mention is Cam Newton, which he's made cases for on WTOP.com.
They would if Cam was here.
All right, we're into our final moments of this week's DC Sports Huddle. Dave Preston, wow, Maryland, Iowa. Did I read that right? If they have a chance to get a win over a top 10 team for the first time since 2007?
I think so. The problem is that if they play the way they played this past Saturday against Kent State, it's not going to happen. They were very sloppy in their win over the Golden Flashes, Dave. This is a huge game for this program. It's year 3 for Coach Mike Loxley. The last time they hosted a Friday night game with fans was 2 years ago. They got blown out by Penn State. So, and they were on the cusp of being in the rankings, and that showed them, okay, you know what, you're not here yet. Completely different roster. Most of the guys who are here have been recruited for and have been brought in by Loxley. What I like is Talia Tagovailoa. He leads the Big Ten in passing yards per game. Maryland also leads the conference in sacks per game. So what I like is that the offensive line is keeping their quarterback upright. Their defensive line is getting to the passer. If Maryland is going to be successful in the Big Ten, their offensive and defensive lines need to make that leap this year, because otherwise they're just a fancy team with wide receivers who, hey, Jayshon Jones, DJ Moore, Stephon Diggs, great guys, but they're accessories, and they need to be successful in the Big Ten. Their offensive and defensive line really both need to make a statement this Friday against Iowa. I think they've got a shot, but until they do make a statement, I'm still going to be wary about this team in this.
Yeah, I agree. I think, look, Iowa's only 3.5-point favorite, but this is a beatable team. Dave, what was the stat yesterday? They're averaging 29 points a game or something close to 30 points a game, right? So for me, it's the defense for Maryland. But look, and Mike Locksley, use whatever you need to use. As he said yesterday, basically, we're still the stepchild, still twice Friday night in 3 weeks until we get over the hump. Do that. Well, then do it. Then just stop talking about it. Do it. Use this as a perfect example. Play should be juiced, at least for the beginning of the game. Let's just don't make sure your students and your crowd isn't gone by halftime and stay in the game, unlike you were 2 years ago. And go out and make a program win, a statement win for this program under Mike Locksley in year number 3. And it is doable. It is the number 5 team in the country, yes. But I think that the fact that it's only a 3.5-point spread and the way Maryland's offense is capable of playing, they could go out and get the win on Friday night. And that could be fun. Can we have some fun, please?
Yes, and I remember that Penn State game because I was doing live shots with the 6 on NBC4. I was canceled by the 11 o'clock. There was no 11 o'clock update on that. Rob,
So was Maryland.
Yeah, yes. Rob, your final thought for this week on whatever is on your mind.
Last night, and I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't touch on Ryan Zimmerman and what could very well be, because by the time the next episode of this airs, the season will be over for the Nationals. But there was a lot of talk on Tuesday night about whether or not that start would be among his last or his last. He's not made a decision yet, but it's hard to kind of see him walk away after such a lost season. I think a guy who's got that kind of pride and just the way he's talking to me, if you start thinking about retirement, and this is the old saying, you start thinking about retirement, you've already retired. The fact that he's still musing about continuing to play tells me he's probably leaning towards running it back for another season. Now, whether you want to do that for a rebuilding team, I mean, that's sort of a bigger question, and whether the team wants him back when they're at a time when they're trying to get younger, much like the Washington football team. So, I hope that he gets the send off, even if it's not an official send off. I hope he gets the send off he deserves against the Red Sox, and he at least gets to start that last game. And knowing him and his penchant for the dramatic, I'm sure he'll hit like a walk-off home run in what could very well be his last game.
Yeah,
and he could eliminate the Sox with that walk-off home run too. Don't think that we're not focused on those standings. It's wicked hard to win in Washington.
And we're
Baltimore, apparently.
The baseball races have been just tremendous to keep up with that, especially the Boston Yankees stuff. And again, with Ryan Zimmerman, he's not costing a lot and won't cost a lot going forward. And we were just talking about a leadership vacuum on the Washington football team. So if he's willing to come back for another season, I'd want him in that dugout with a young team. So I think that's something that it would be a benefit because he wasn't, he's not going to be an everyday player, not an everyday player this year. And that was never in the plan. But as long as we truly appreciate Ryan Zimmerman this weekend, it might be his last, but he's also saying the right thing about, he was talking about, get to December and, we see where you are. When you get to the end of the season, you're ready to retire, period. Anyway,
Yeah.
And you get to December, you're thinking, this staying at home is not all that it's cracked up to be.
And Mike Rizzo said on another radio station, he says, Ryan Zimmerman will always have a place on a Mike Rizzo team.
Right.
So sounds like the choice is Zim's if he wants it.
Yeah, well, and that's probably the way it should be.
Yeah.
Again, that does it for this DC Sports Huddle. Thanks for connecting with us with Dave Preston, George Wallace, Rob Woodfork. I'm Dave Johnson, and that's the best we could do this week. We'll try better next week.
Great.